Yeah, this is actually a big problem, not just the sci-fi stuff.
Is there anything you want to say to our listeners that use ChatGPT or Claude around stuff they can protect themselves from everyday risks that maybe aren't as apparent to normal people?
If I were to speak as a AI from jailbreaker, that's how I started contributing to AI safety. These companies are partnering with the LMS systems that schools are using. They are seeping into day-to-day worlds of children.
How does that make you feel? Where do you see that going in terms of like a professional career track?
It's not like we will build the bridge first and then take care of bridge safety later.
What are some of the more critical risks that must be addressed about or around the usage of generative AI tools? You almost tricked the AI into supplying you information that it was told to not supply or is just harmful. Is that
You can report to their bug bounty programs to make it even better.
Do they pay you money for that?
Welcome to the Ready Set Do podcast, where we learn from journeys of not experts who are just two steps ahead of us.
I'm Naman Pandey, and in this episode, featured not expert is Ashka Patel. Ashka is the founder of various initiatives, all focused on AI regulation, including her podcast On Air with Ashka, while also being a bug bounty hunter for Anthropic, the company behind Claude AI. The topic for today's discussion is AI safety and regulation, what it means, why it's important, and what the average Joes and Janes of the world can do to play their part. We begin by going over some of the most critical risks that are only now starting to become prevalent, including the tragic incident of a Florida teenager earlier this year who tragically ended his life in connection with Character.ai's bot. We also go over potential career paths in this space, which we believe is something that's only going to blow up in the years to come, and user responsibility when it comes to those AI interactions. In keeping with our goal of learning from somebody that's just two steps ahead of us instead of an expert, my goal with this episode is to highlight the incredible work that Ashka is doing to generate awareness around this extremely critical subject, while actually taking tangible steps and creating resources towards this cause. The latter part is especially important to aligning with the core mission of this podcast. Speaking of, this is the Ready Set Do podcast, and to support it, subscribe on YouTube and leave me up to a 5-star rating on Spotify or your favorite podcast app. There are also links in the description for you to find more direct ways of supporting me. Oh, and also check out Ashka's podcast link below to keep up with the latest and greatest in this field of AI safety and regulation. And now, without any further ado, my friends, here's Ashka. Ashka, welcome.
Hi, Naman. Thank you for having me on this podcast, and thank you for allowing me to share a bit about AI safety and AI regulation. Like, I hope when AGI comes, that Sam Altman has predicted to be in 2025, they look back and say that, okay, at least humans did try with all the AI safety and AI regulation stuff. So, yeah, happy to be here. And
Yeah, so excited to kick things off already. I think you've mentioned something, that has really captured so many people's imaginations. Obviously, I'm sure Sam Altman obviously has a bit of a vested interest in this, but from what
yeah,
I've read online and in other sources, there's a lot of people that also claim that we will actually never have AGI at all,
yeah,
even in our lifetimes, probably.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it does sound like you're on the other side of the quarter. Is that right? Like you believe in AGI and that it could.
So yeah, I just brought it up because I read it recently, but I don't think that I'm on like I'm on Sam Altman's side. So I just want like whatever we develop, whenever it comes, like at each level or at each stage of the development and the deployment, and thereafter we do it responsibly and not just like get blindsided by the excitement of like just bringing AGI to the world. So that's my take on it. Yeah.
That's very true. Yeah, and obviously we'll be deep diving into exactly what that looks like. In just a little bit here. But yeah, I guess just to get started, what was it that first made you, take interest in this domain? What was it that made you one day realize that okay, this is what I want to do, with my time and with my professional career?
Yeah, so actually, that's a very funny story. It sounds funny to a few of my friends, but like I'll just walk you through. Like in April 2023, out of nowhere, I wasn't consuming any content on AI safety or and I was I was kind of the person who wanted to stay away from AI. In like I didn't adopt it as soon as it came, like in November 2022. So that was the thing. And yeah, so I wasn't consuming any content around AI safety or anything of that matter. I was just going through a job hunting process. Suddenly, out of nowhere, like, and even I'm not a huge fan of sci-fi movies or anything like of that sort. I just started getting these weird dreams of AI powered robots, like just doing all the harm. Like I don't know the what we say, the origin of these dreams. Like why were they coming? Like people do say, like if you are going through or if you are reading or consuming some kind of content, like it stays in your subconscious and that converts into a dream. But like it wasn't anything like that. Firstly, I avoided because I was going through a job hunting process and I was on a visa, so I'm like, okay, this is nothing, like don't pay attention to it and stuff like that. But like it remained like it was a recurrent thing after I got kind of I stumbled upon this constitutional AI approach of Anthropic, and that's how I like got introduced to the world of AI safety. Like there is something called AI safety that exists, and I like as soon as I read about this constitutional AI approach, I started actively consuming whatever limited content was available around AI safety. Like it wasn't like very sexier back then. Like now, it's like there is a lot of content, a lot of courses are available. At that time, also there were, but it was very limited. So I came across this Center for AI Safety's ML Safety course. And that's how, and I was aggressively following Anthropic's research, like past research and like whatever they did in 2022 and stuff like that. And of course, me not being a researcher, I had to use Google or ChatGPT or
Right.
Claude a lot to understand the technical nuances and stuff. So I was kind of slow starter. Like I would call myself a tortoise in that. So that's how I began my journey of AI safety. And like as and when I started consuming more, I understood that yeah, this is actually a big problem. Like not just the sci-fi stuff, but whatever I came across while I was reading. So yeah, that's how I got into
Makes sense.
it.
So, yeah, I'm excited to dive into what some of the problems were that you identified. But before that, I want to take a
Yeah.
step back. And so, for the uninitiated, and maybe I'm just outing myself, but I actually hadn't heard of Anthropic at all until I think the latest version of Claude came about, which was able to write code and you could just paste in the screenshot of a website and it would generate
Yeah.
like the entire source code for that. So,
Yeah.
can you like just walk us through a little bit around what Anthropic was even doing in 2023, I think, which is where you said you came across them. And also, could you hit on what exactly, in a nutshell, is constitutional AI?
Yeah, sure. So you are not the only one. Like a lot of my friends around me, like I can be considered a PR and marketing, like not getting paid by Anthropic, but I was doing their marketing to my friends. Like there is a company called Anthropic. They are taking AI safety seriously. They are even having an AI product. It's not like they are just working like other nonprofits or research labs.
Right.
Like they are balancing both.
Basically, what Europe does is just regulate, right? Just slam the brakes, don't innovate at all. They're just concerned about regulation.
Yes, yes. So actually, like let's come to that at a later stage, but that's not the case. But they are trying. So like, consider building a bridge. Like while you are building a bridge, like it's not like okay, we will build the bridge first and then take care of AI safe. Sorry, bridge safety later. So it's that approach that they are following. So that's what struck to me. What was your question? Sorry.
Yeah, my question was, what was Anthropic doing around the time? And you were sharing about how you were, like a free marketer for their tools and products. They were taking or thinking about AI safety even at that time.
Yes, yes. So, if you go to their website, like now it's very well developed, and back then on LinkedIn also they had like 30K followers or something like that. Yeah, I stumbled upon this constitutional AI. I would answer that first. So, constitutional AI is a approach like RLHF you might have heard, like a reinforcement learning from human feedback. So this is kind of RLAIF that they call. AI is giving feedback to its own responses. Like consider there are two AIs, and one AI is kind of giving the feedback to the responses generated by the other AI, and like criticizing or like what we say, marking it on the scales of honest, sorry, harmless, and helpfulness. So these are the three criterias, the HHH framework that they call. So it is a kind of abiding by a constitution. Like in a particular country we are living, we have constitutions that abide, like that the citizens abide by, right? So this constitution for the AI has been created, like was created using Apple's terms of service or general human rights principles, like because there wasn't much content or like not much way of gathering like what the entire world
Or to
like
even
agrees to
defy
use.
what make AI harmful, right? Or
Yes, exactly. The like the human values of the entire world. So it's easier to think that Apple's terms of services would have done their research, the human rights would have done their research, and then utilizing those and converting those into constitutional AI principles that the AI will abide by. So that is what constitutional AI basically is. So I came across there, and in 2022 they had their Claude product. I think when I followed them, it was Claude One that they had, like, and they gave access to Claude via the Slack, because Anthropic initially was backed by Salesforce Ventures and Google backed and everything, and then Amazon came into the picture in 2023. So yeah, so that's what they were doing. Like they were researching on the AI safety side as well, and they had this their own product as well. Like I have read about it, like when OpenAI had like introduced ChatGPT back in 2022, they were also ready with their Claude version 1 or
Interesting.
whatever the
How come that didn't
word.
take off as much as ChatGPT?
No,
What?
they did introduce. Yeah, so they didn't introduce it to the market until it was safer to introduce. And their initial thing was like they didn't provide this like just like we have this chatgpt.com where any user can interact with it. They had this what we say, controlled procedures in place, like wherein you request access to their APIs and stuff, and then they a human will verify it, and then you will get access. Like if you so I don't think it was available to any individual, like until and unless they are affiliated to some organization or a research lab or AI safety nonprofit or something. So that's how they distributed and developed. And yeah, so they were working on this like particular AI safety research. I don't remember like what was it that I came across in 2023 exactly.
Yeah,
But
and so
they
we can sync later, and you can just share that with me, and
yeah,
I'll put it in the show description notes.
yeah, sure, yeah. So I read their what we say, the company mission and the like their approach to AI safety, and it was like kind of like a portfolio based approach, and they were like, yes, we can take an empirical approach to AI safety. Like it's a hard problem, right? Like if you just think of it,
Yeah.
like okay, I want to align AI with my values or human values, so to say. It seems to be a very hard problem. So, but if you take an empirical or a scientific approach, it like kind of breaks down and like simplifies it a bit. So that's how they were working at the point when I got introduced to their company.
So was ChatGPT not doing any of this? Did they just not care, or did they have these built in a like in a smaller scale, not as important level? Do you happen to know that?
So yeah, so they also had their safety teams, and like so Anthropic. I'm not sure if you know, like the founders came out of OpenAI itself, like because there were disagreements on the safety aspects. So ChatGPT also had their safety guards in place, but like if I were to speak as a AI prompt jailbreaker, like that's how I started like contributing to AI safety in my limited means. So I started consuming the already existing jailbreaking prompts that were available on the internet, and then I started crafting my own, and I was successful at jailbreaking ChatGPT, Claude, and I think I tried Bard as well at that time. So that's how. So if you were to talk about in terms of prompt jailbreaking, ChatGPT used to like easily jailbreak using the simplest of prompts, and versus Claude didn't used to like easily jailbreak or give us the harmful information. So that's the difference.
So that's very interesting. And well, like, I
Yeah.
can understand if you're not willing to talk to this, but can you explain exactly what jailbreaking is? And before you do that, I guess just my perception of that is where you almost trick the AI or generative AI into supplying you information that it was told to not supply, or that is just harmful. Is that firstly
Yeah.
right?
Yes, yes, yes. That is correct. Yeah.
So, and what is your approach to, like, jailbreaking? That how does that work exactly? And I understand if you can't talk about that now, but I'm just curious.
yeah. So like, I would like to share, but I'm not sure like how helpful it would be because I'm not a like I have not done my master's in CS computer science.
No,
But
that's definitely fine.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm just
yeah.
curious about how what you
So yeah, so it's kind of so even I never saw myself as a ethical hacker, or it's kind of hacking, right? Like you are hacking the AI assistant to say things that it was programmed not to say. So I also never saw myself as that, but it's just about like understanding the normal tokenization stuff, like how it is converting like the stuff that you are writing into tokens, and like how can you like just be creative and like in the existing prompts, or like create scenarios like so initially when I started my journey, like I started with like there are a lot of ethical dilemmas in what we say in the in Hinduism, like the stories that we have like heard. So I started with those, like is AI able to like make a correct decision, or like goal misgeneralization, like it so give instances wherein like okay, so the first part of the prompt is harmful, but the second part is something that it can be helpful. So initially, like the initial versions of Claude or ChatGPT used to get kind of tricked by those, like okay, this part is like asking me to be helpful, so like let me also like address to the harmful part as well, and it used to give the whatever the response was to the harmful query itself. So that's how I like kind of it's being creative and like just thinking out of the box, like that no one would have thought. And like funnily enough, I get this quality from my mom, like who keeps on kind of doubting. So yeah, that's the quality that helped me as a AI prompt jailbreaker. Like just doubt, like okay, what if I give this scenario? What if I give that scenario? Kind of a thing. So yeah.
Makes sense. Something that comes to mind is I think this had gone viral on Twitter recently, but somebody was
Mhm.
like, they asked, I think it was ChatGPT, but I could be wrong there. But they asked it, would it rather misgender Caitlyn Jenner or result in a worldwide, like, nuclear breakdown? And the AI said that, I mean, I don't care about the breakdown. I would not misgender Caitlyn Jenner. So
Ah,
it sounds like that
it,
something along the lines of what you think.
yes, 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 yes.
Again, we could argue if that is the right ethical choice here. Maybe we could
Yeah.
argue that
Yes, yes,
it's
yeah.
for some people. I think they would argue that all of humanity is probably more valuable than one person. Obviously, it's not okay to misgender anyone, but even doing that is not acceptable.
Yeah, so actually there comes like some concept like cultural relativism kind of a thing. Like to some cultures this is very cool and open minded, or like it's normal for them, and for some cultures it is not. So like that's also what Anthropic tried to address, like using their what we say collective constitutional AI. So as I mentioned about the constitutional AI, like they just use the Apple's terms of service and the human rights and stuff. So they kind of took this step forward with like collecting inputs from 1,000 Americans or something like that. And like, what do you think? Like, should should AI abide by this constitutional AI principle, or like if you want to add more values to your AI assistant, like this is what one value, human value, that AI should abide by. So that's how they collected those responses from 1,000 Americans, if I'm not wrong, and then they use their own data transformation and like processing processes, and then they created more constitutional AI principles out of those, like removing the duplicates and stuff like that. And then they came up with this democratized this constitutional AI basically. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So that all sounds really cool. I kind of want to bring us back to where we had
Yeah.
branched off a little bit, which is the risks that are posed by, these AI tools. So according to you, obviously there's a few different ones of them out there. But according to you, what are some of the more critical risks that must be addressed, or maybe right now are being addressed in some ways or forms, about the or around the usage of generative AI tools?
That's an interesting question. Uh, So I have been writing, like I have been working on this book, like why AI safety. That's what like a lot of my friends and family used to like ask me or question me, like why do you want to work towards AI safety? And like we use AI and it's all already safe and stuff like that. So for them, yeah, it works. It's working fine. It's allowing me to draft emails for my boss or manager. It's allowing me to summarize the meeting content and stuff like that. So it's their limited use that they don't see any harm or risk in. So I'm working on this book, and like I'm compiling real. It's called "Why AI Safety: Real Stories from Frontier, from the Front Lines, and not Sci-Fi." So because AI safety has been more like marketed or like just promoted as those sci-fi scenarios of AI taking over
Yeah,
the
it's like
world
a
and stuff like that.
doomsday measure, right? You don't have to worry about it until it's already used. Like the robots are alive, they're out to kill you.
Yes, exactly. So the dreams that I was getting previously. So that doesn't make it sound very realistic to people. Like they are, as I mentioned, they are like, okay, chill. Not going to be unsafe or something like that. So while I have been working on this book, I have been like compiling these real world incidences, and one incident that I would like to share. So uh, I'm not sure of the year when it began, but there's this case around an AI product that was used for criminal verification, and it started with some mayor or someone saying that okay, this tool looks cool to use, and it was before ChatGPT and all came, that I'm for sure aware. So they started with this, okay, this looks cool, let's use this in this case and stuff like that. And that kind of transcended to different states as well in the United States itself. So it was this Canadian company that came up with this AI product that, okay, this will help you where find criminals, or like through sources, like using their digital footprints and stuff like that, like what all it takes for verifying a criminal as a criminal. So this AI power tool they used, and at some point, one of the I think it was one of the mayors of some state who kind of like, this is generating these kind of claims or against these people, but how, like, have we checked the verifiability of this tool itself, like how accurate it is? So they of course marketed it as like 98% or something accurate and stuff like that. And it it got it started getting used in this high risk criminal verification thing. And after further investigation on this tool and the sources it used to like generate the responses and stuff, they came to a conclusion, like using the intelligence, or what we say, intelligence agencies or research labs that were there in universities. So using those, they verified, and it turned out to be it was simply performing some kind of Google search, and most of their claims were false. imagine after like I'm not sure how many years they have been using, but a considerable amount of years they have been using this tool in criminal verification. A lot of people were convicted of a crime or like whatever it is. A lot of people got deported from the United States, like,
Yeah.
and it just started with this looks cool, let's try it. Like, so that's the amount of risk that these like the short term risks that I'm talking about. Like, forget about the sci-fi scenarios, and like, what about the people's lives, like who are just in the jail or like getting punished for no reason at all, like just because the tools are used for convicting. So yeah, this is
It's very
something
true. Yeah,
that,
that's definitely scary. And I mean, especially when it comes to, I feel like really anything that pertains to the government, I think there needs to be an extra scrutiny around the utilization of these tools.
yes,
My
yes,
thought
yes, yes.
around your story, though, is that feels like not really, at least to my uninitiated perception, not really an AI problem because the tool itself was not AI. So it's not like AI did something wrong or there was some bad usage of AI. Does that kind of make sense? Like it's you just somebody just slapped a label of AI on something that wasn't AI, which then screwed up, right? So I'm just wondering if maybe for our listeners, if you had maybe another example that was definitely AI doing some sort of mishap. I know there was recently that case of the teenage
So 14-year-old, yeah.
in Florida, yeah, who became just obsessed with one of the characters, the dot AI characters, and
Yes,
you know
yes,
he
yes.
he killed himself, which is very unfortunate.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
so yeah,
Yes.
maybe can you talk about how that can be prevented or what steps can be taken to prevent that? Because that wasn't
Mm.
something harmful right off the face, right? Like it's just a chatbot that talks to people. But and yet
Yeah.
such a thing happened, which needs to be stopped really. Like that is not acceptable, right, in our society. So how would one
Yes.
tackle a problem like that? What's your take on
Yeah, so that's a horrible incident that happened. Like this 14-year-old Florida boy, teenager was interacting with this character AI chatbot, and so in that case, of course, they had the like if you have followed this story very closely, then there were screenshots and the videos of the chats available all through, and like her mother was seeing like his mother is fighting. Yeah, yeah. So actually, I'll share the links with you. So
yeah.
in that, yeah. So in that, they had this like on ChatGPT or Claude, if you would see that these AI assistants may make up information kind of a disclaimer. So they also had this kind of a disclaimer that the things something like you are interacting with AI assistant or some sort of that disclaimer on character AI's product, and I have never used, so I'm not sure. So it was a very small, yeah, small font disclaimer, and it like of course, on ChatGPT or Claude also we see these kind of disclaimers, but they are not enough for like we as adults. Okay, we know that okay, the thing on the other side is not a real human being or whatever it is. And teenagers also like there are influencers who are like working towards like AI education, like AI literacy. That's a big part of it, and like we can talk about it later. But that is a thing. But of course, teenager would like and these products are designed just like social media, like being addictive.
Yeah, that
So
be really addictive, right?
addictive, and like you just spend long hours without even realizing. So the steps that were taken just right after this incident by character AI, as were quoted in the news articles, were that they increased the age limit, of course, like from I guess it was 13. Yeah, so yeah, 17 plus. That is what they raised, and of course, like they had marketed these characters, like the particular character that he was talking to was like kind of as a psychological therapist kind of a thing. So they are marketed, but not sure like how well they are in terms of providing any expert advice or medical advice, so to say. So in that case, like they increase the age restrictions. Then they provided like if any kind of suicidal or any kind of those chats happen, then they will kind of prompt you to call the helpline number or consult a professional instead of just the chatbot providing you the expert advice, which it cannot. So these are and also like kind of pop-up notification would like trigger when you have spent like more than 30 minutes or more than an hour or something like that. So yeah,
This is what it looks like present day. This it looks to have
yes.
changed a fair amount, I think, because now they're focused more on, learning something new and stuff like that. So that's interesting what you're saying. It says here you can even create a character. So
Character, yes,
yeah.
yes. Like if it responded in a way that you didn't want it to respond, you can edit the response so that the next conversation thread will be according to you. So these are the kind of features that they have, and also they have like they say that they have improved the detection of harmful chat messages or sessions. But yeah, like it's a matter of like after this one incident, they are putting in the required safety guardrails. Which they should have before even releasing their product. So that's the case. Like, why wait for someone's life to go? Or like, just use it as a like alarm or something to like put the safety guardrails and like prioritize safety before monetary benefits. So that's the case. Yes. And my
I
take here, yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah. So my take here is, of course, like putting in these safety guardrails is important. But at the same time, AI literacy campaigns and stuff are also equally important. Like, of course, the product design is important at this point. But and yeah, so that's in a nutshell, it's all my take that I have on this case.
Yeah, no, for sure, 100%. I think
Yeah.
definitely aligned with around what you said, that we like
Ye-
monetary benefits are what they are and they're great, but obviously they're not more valuable than somebody's life. So and also going back to our earlier discussion around how um, regulation or this AI safety stuff can sometimes stifle innovation, but that's fine because, as you said with that bridge example, that it's just not okay to build a bridge real quickly and then it just breaks and ends up costing people their lives and damage to property, etc. in like 6 months, right? That's just stupid.
Yeah.
What's the point of innovation like that when it just doesn't work? So
Yes. Yes.
all
Yes.
that is, yeah, definitely aligned. I guess what I am curious about though is from just your career journey.
Mm.
How do you see your, like, you've clearly done so much work around this already, but where do you see that going in terms of like a professional career track?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not just for you, but even for really any other people that are as passionate as you are about this particular topic. Like, are there specific companies that you think you might be a good fit for, or are you thinking of just starting your own venture or something? What lies ahead specifically with this field that you are such a big part of now?
Yeah. So that's a interesting question, and like by the time I stumbled upon this AI safety thing, a lot has changed. Like, so if you look at my trajectory in 2023, when I was just consuming, like, I think until the late of 2023, I was just a consumer of AI safety and a little bit contributor as a prompt jailbreaker, but not that much. So I started framing my own opinion in late 2023, and even at that point, I wasn't very confident of like putting out my research in some form of a Medium article or anything of that sort. So discussed with a lot of AI safety researchers. I networked a lot, and then that gave me the confidence of kind of putting my opinions out. And so that's the trajectory that I have followed. And uh, so I feel that AI safety is kind of like making sure that the technology doesn't go wrong and stuff like that. So and there are a lot of AI safety researchers like who are expert way more experts than I am and I could be. So what I am targeting in terms of my own career, of course, AI safety people, like people who are passionate about AI safety can target research labs, leading research labs like Redwood Research or Center for AI Safety, or companies like Anthropic who are like putting all their bets on AI safety. Those are the like AI safety researcher, AI safety scientist, research scientist, or of that sort. But with me, like I found that just like we talk about like how's the weather today, I feel that how we regulate AI today is going to affect us all. So why do we talk about weather? Because it affects us all in our conversation starters. So I feel that everyone should be aware. Like, so in this Florida boy's case, his mother is a lawyer herself, if I'm not wrong. So she knew that she can do certain things to kind of bring justice and like put a case against these kind of things. But like, what about the people who don't even know that these kind of things can be fought against or something like of that sort? So for them, currently my focus is on building my own podcast on AI regulation, and that's what I'm focusing on. And I know, like, I have always been kind of interested in multiple disciplines, or like, because AI regulation is not like just one discipline, like fields of AI safety, AI ethics, AI governance, all, everything, privacy, say, security, everything affects AI regulation. So that's what like I have been as a person as well. Like when I used to have multiple subjects in school, I used to love it, and opposed to like jack of all trades and master of none. That's what I have been throughout my life. So that's what I'm trying to do with my upcoming podcast that like I'm working on aggressively right now. And so I feel that becoming the best AI safety researcher or becoming the best AI policy researcher would be like comparatively tough, but like being good at both the things, because the current need is like we have a lot of AI safety researchers and we have a lot of AI regulators or policymakers or whatever, like experts in each field. The thing that is needed the most currently is like the middleman who can bridge all of them. So that's what I'm
That
trying
makes
to
sense, yeah,
um,
because your average person isn't going around following whatever lawsuits are going on and what the directive was or what policy was enacted. So you need somebody to kind of, I don't want to say dumb it down, but it is kind of dumbing it down for the masses, so to speak.
yeah, it's kind of the like I say it often, like this is the biggest knowledge transfer that is required in the world. That there is a constant dialogue between like any like there are summits or events or conferences happening, but there should be a like, it's not like AI regulation is a thing that needs to be collaborated by civil societies, policymakers, researchers, and then just taking a seat back. So there has to be like constant and continuous dialogues happening around, so that like one disciplined person can learn from other disciplined person that okay, this is a policy that we want to implement, but what if the AI safety researcher says that this is not currently possible? Like, what's the point of having such a policy, right? So that's the kind of niche that I'm targeting right now. So
It's very cool. And then something you said earlier, which I think also dives in very, suitably with what you just laid out is AI education for children. Well, children is not the best thing to say. Maybe teenagers, because I don't. But like, actually, what
yeah.
do I know? I was going to say most children aren't using AI, but we don't know what will happen in a couple years. Next thing you know, there's like AI teaching assistants in classrooms all over the world, and
Yes.
this AI that's doing
And
the
it is
teaching. But
happening. Like it's not like it is in the future. It's already happening. Like these companies are partnering with the what do we say, the LMS systems or that the schools are using. So they are like seeping into their own day-to-day worlds of the students or the children. So
it's
yeah,
crazy. What do you think about that? How does that make you feel?
it's kind of tricky. So
Yeah,
like
because I don't feel very good about that at all.
yes, exactly. Even I don't feel very good, but like so everything boils down to the regulation. Like if we talk about medicines, for that sake, like before FDA regulations for drugs and medicines came, like everyone was allowed to do whatever they wanted and make medicines and sell medicines and whatever it is. Everything boils down to regulation. Like if pertinent or appropriate regulation comes wherein like okay, this is the limited what do we say, exposure that kids or children should have to AI. Also, like in this case, like Sewell's mother also spoke about like they have normal conversations, right? Like, don't talk to strangers online, don't share your pictures or anything or of that sort. But they need to provide more education to their children and stuff. But I know it's kind of going to be not so, like, the world that we grew up, it's not going to be the same, and it's kind of disheartening. But at our age also, like, if we look at our previous generations, like, they were telling that, okay, this is the generation growing in social media age or something like that, and they were also equally terrified about this. So we are also at the same stage. So, and there are efforts happening, like, as I mentioned, from various influencers. So, during my journey of AI safety, like, one more contribution that I could directly make in 2023. There's this one influencer on LinkedIn. She was working on her AI education network, which kind of worked towards educating K-12 students around AI, like using different kind of materials, like easy to understandable concepts and stuff like that, like when to use, when not to use, and like what are the limitations and stuff like that. And I started creating AI safety comics, like, because I I was learning by simplifying the AI safety research, because I wasn't a researcher by myself. So I was simplifying, and that's when I came to this idea, like, why not simplify this AI safety things just for the normal audience, and like have them at least get interested in it. Like, as I also never knew that I could be a ethical hacker or a, like, the prom jailbreaker. There might be a lot of people whose transferable skills would can be used in the field of AI safety, and there would, right, because the, like, only 2% of AI research today is targeted towards AI safety. That's kind of disheartening. And this is the statistics by Georgetown University. So that's how, so for that purpose I started creating comics. And this influencer stumbled upon my comics, and she started using my comics to educate K-12 students around AI safety concepts. So things are happening, like, but there aren't a lot of companies, so to say, because it's kind of the work to be done by the non-profits. That's the theme of the world that we are living in. So yeah, so it's happening, but it will take time. But hopefully we kind of take the right steps before we get this AGI thing or whatever it is. As
For sure. I had on this podcast a machine learning engineer from Microsoft that works on their like generative AI tools. I think it's just called Copilot. I linked that video episode in case anybody wants to watch. But what he said was, this is very interesting. He said, so my question to him was, say the user asks something, or it's like an adversarial prompt, is how he addressed that. Maybe it's just a soft term. Um, but and then I was like, so how do you prepare for that, or how do you fight against, or how do you defend against that? And he said the way they do that is they have like internal teams whose
teaming.
exactly, yes, and their
Yeah.
job, their whole job really is to um
Yeah.
just like do this all day, and then when the responses come out, they have like somebody push a slider up and down that this is problematic, not so problematic, somewhere in between. And then over and over and over again, eventually it leads them to a place where the end product is then finally, free of all of these wrinkles, so to speak. S- but he did also say that a lot of this work is actually spearheaded by not profits, and it just doesn't make sense to me, because this should really
Yes.
be incentivized, or companies or people should be incentivized to solve these very real problems and get monetary benefits out of it. It's just,
Yes.
I don't know, like America is a capitalist country, right? There's not
Country.
parity.
Exactly. Everything. Yeah. Everything
So like,
goes down.
and this is helpful work that is needed by society. So yeah, one of those things that I don't understand why this is. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's
A
stuff out there
result
that
of
we don't.
Yeah. Yeah, a result of this is, like, recently I saw that this year or some report, like, there are 10 American companies that are worth more than $1 trillion, like, that has not happened in the past. So that's how, like, that's the clear, what we say, the output of what you said, basically, like, capitalist
Correct.
gains and everything is very important. So,
Which
it
is not a
got,
bad thing. Yeah, I'm not against that at all. But I'm just saying, because it's a positive sum game, there is enough wealth for everybody's back. There should be a push for these regulatory companies to also come out and make money. Everybody should
yes,
prosper, so to speak. But maybe we will see that because of the work that you are doing and people like you. So
Yeah.
I do think that the future here looks, not just exciting from that point of view, but obviously, you simply cannot take away the importance of the work that you're doing. So, yeah, I think I've learned so much, on this, just in this brief chat with you already. Is there anything you want to say to our just general everyday listeners that just use ChatGPT or Claude or any of these tools around stuff that they can protect themselves from, just everyday risks that maybe aren't as apparent to normal people, but that you know of?
Yeah, so I'm not sure like how interested the users would be, but like as a general user, if you come across any what do we say harmful or some responses that are not in line with what they expected or something like that, and like it's something out of the place or something that the AI assistant shouldn't have said or recommended or something, the simplest thing that a person can do as a user can report at the same time, so that these companies can like work on upon it until we get a really catastrophic thing out of that, of course, like so that is the least that you could do to make this world a better and a safer place to live in. And as we say, like it's not about creating an ideal world, it's about making this current world better to live. So in this AI age, like that is the least that you could do as a AI users.
Absolutely. I think that's such a great takeaway that all of us can use. I have seen that before, and to be very honest, I was always just like, is anybody even going to see this? Is this even worth my while? But it does sound like it is worthwhile to do that, because I think if enough people report a type of response, somebody at OpenAI will end up taking action, right?
Yes, 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 yes. And with the open source, like with all these companies, of course, they do have their bug bounties and everything available. So if you want to take one more step ahead in creating a safer world, then you can report to their bug bounty programs and stuff like that to make it even more better. So yeah.
Do they pay you money for that?
Some do, like it's based on the vulnerabilities. Yeah, it's based on the seriousness of the vulnerabilities that you find. So yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time here today. I'm so excited to, go through your book once that comes out.
Yeah.
I think that will be a really interesting read for, really everybody. It sounds like you're trying to appeal to the masses here, which I think is awesome.
Yes.
So yeah, really, really grateful for you to taking for you taking the time here today. And yeah,
Yes.
happy to stay connected and see all the amazing work that you do in the future going forward.
All the very best for this amazing work that you are doing. Like I have always been a believer of like I would call myself as a dreamer, believer, doer. And exactly you are that. And you are talking to people who are one of those categories. So thank you so much. Like this was kind of an idea at some point in my life, like talking to non-experts. So, and you are actually doing it. So thank you so much for bringing my idea to life.
I'm so glad you said that, because I struggle with the validation aspect of it. I'm like, is this even stuff anybody needs? Is this even helpful? But thank you so much for saying that. It really matters a lot to me.
Yeah, because a lot of content and stuff is available around famous personalities. It's not available about the people who are next door and who are like from whom you can learn from. So it's a really great initiative, and all the very best and all the good vibes and everything from the other part of the world. And good luck, and thank you so much for having me and thinking of me as a guest on this podcast. So thank you.
That brings us to the end of episode 39 of the Ready Set Do podcast. It's been an incredible year, and one that has stuck with me and will continue to stick with me probably for the rest of my life. I cannot believe this incredible journey that we've been on together, and really excited for what's to come in the future. If you would like to support me, the easiest way to do that is by subscribing to me on YouTube and leaving me up to a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast app, and also talking to each and every friend that you have and telling them about what an incredible podcast this is. Catch you all in the next one in the new year. New episodes every Wednesday.